Is it normal to share a shower like this? The alien girl didn't understand my blush. Liam Kovach had chosen the isolation of the Cascade Mountains deliberately. After years working at the Seattle Meteorological Center, the constant drone of human interaction had worn him thin. Here, among towering pines and unpredictable weather patterns, he could breathe. His cabin, a sturdy structure built by his own hands over 3 summers, sat perched on an outcropping that offered panoramic views of the valley perfect for someone who made their living tracking atmospheric anomalies. Tonight's storm was unlike anything his instruments had predicted. The barometer had plummeted faster than he'd ever recorded, and lightning carved electric blue paths across the obsidian sky with unsettling frequency. Liam stood on his covered porch, the wind whipping his auburn hair as he filmed the phenomenon with his specialized equipment. Highly unusual electrical discharge patterns, he muttered into his recorder. Possible mesocyclone forming to the words died in his throat as something bright and foreign sliced through the clouds. Not lightning, too sustained, too directional. The object left a glowing trail as it arced across the sky before disappearing behind the ridge about 2 miles from his cabin. Impact event at approximately 22:17, he said, his scientific mind already cataloging details while his human instincts screamed that whatever he'd just witnessed was not normal meteorological activity. Possible meteorite. But meteorites didn't change direction mid-fall. Liam debated for all of 30 seconds before grabbing his emergency pack, slipping into his weatherproof gear and heading out into the deluge. If this was what he suspected, something manufactured rather than natural, he needed to document it before any government agency swooped in to contain it. The journey through the storm-ravaged forest was treacherous. Twice he nearly lost his footing on the slick ground, and falling branches became hazardous projectiles in the gale-force winds. When he finally reached the impact site, his headlamp illuminated a scene straight from science fiction. A metallic pod, roughly the size of a small car, had carved a furrow through the earth. Steam rose from its surface as raindrops hissed against hot metal. The design was sleek, with no visible seams or joints until, as Liam watched, a section of the hull seemed to liquefy and retract. "Hello?" he called out, immediately feeling foolish. If this was an experimental aircraft, the pilot was likely unconscious or dead. A soft purple glow emanated from within the craft, and Liam cautiously approached. What he saw inside stole his breath more effectively than the frigid rain. A humanoid figure lay curled against what appeared to be a control interface. The being was unmistakably feminine in form, but her skin, visible through tears in a silvery bodysuit, was a rich lavender hue that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence. Dark, iridescent hair framed a face that was hauntingly beautiful despite its alien features. Slightly larger eyes, a more pronounced brow, and small ridges that traced her temples. As Liam stood frozen in shock, those eyes fluttered open, revealing irises the color of amethyst with no visible pupils. The alien woman gazed at him, clearly disoriented, before speaking in a melodic language he couldn't comprehend. "I can't understand you," Liam said, his scientific detachment warring with profound awe. "But you're injured and this storm is getting worse." Blood, or something like it, darker and more viscous than human blood, seeped from a gash on her forearm. Making a decision that would irreversibly change his life, Liam reached into the pod. "I'm going to help you. Can you move?" She seemed to understand his intent, if not his words. With obvious pain, she extended her hand, 5-fingered like his own but with joints that bent slightly differently, and allowed him to help her from the craft. Once upright, she swayed dangerously, and Liam caught her against his chest. "My cabin's not far," he said, knowing she couldn't understand but needing to fill the surreal silence between them. "We need to get you somewhere safe until this storm passes." As he guided her through the forest, her strange eyes took in everything with keen intelligence. Twice she stopped to touch tree bark or examine a leaf with childlike wonder. When they finally reached his cabin, the power was flickering ominously. "Let me look at that wound," Liam said, gesturing to her arm once they were inside. He retrieved his first aid kit while she examined her surroundings with obvious curiosity. As he cleaned her injury, the skin beneath his fingers smoother and slightly cooler than human flesh, she watched his movements intently. "I'm Liam," he said, pointing to himself. "Liam?" She tilted her head, considering before tapping her chest. "Nira," she responded, her voice like wind chimes. As the power finally surrendered to the storm, plunging them into darkness broken only by emergency lighting, Liam realized he had just become the first human to make first contact. And she was entirely dependent on him for survival in a world utterly foreign to her. "Well, Naira," he said, lighting a lantern, "looks like we're going to be roommates until this storm passes." Her lips curved into what might have been a smile, and Liam felt something shift in his carefully ordered universe. The first morning after the crash, Liam woke to find Naira standing at his kitchen window, silhouetted against the storm-darkened sky. Her lavender fingers splayed against the glass as she watched raindrops race down the pane with childlike fascination. The silvery bodysuit she'd arrived in had been damaged in the crash, so Liam had lent her one of his flannel shirts and a pair of drawstring sweatpants. The sight of this clearly non-human being in his mundane clothing created a surreal contrast that made his head spin. "Morning," he offered, his voice still rough with sleep. "How's the arm?" Naira turned, those remarkable amethyst eyes focusing on him with unnerving intensity. The wound on her forearm had already begun to heal at a rate no human injury could match. She touched it briefly before responding in her melodic language. Frustration flickered across her features when she realized he still couldn't understand. Liam gestured to his small dining table. "Hungry? Food?" He pantomimed eating. Naira approached cautiously, studying everything in his cabin with meticulous attention. She picked up a spoon, examining her distorted reflection in its curved surface before setting it down with deliberate precision. When Liam placed a bowl of oatmeal before her, she mimicked his eating motions perfectly, though her expression suggested she found the texture peculiar. "The storm's gotten worse," Liam said, glancing at his weather equipment. The power remained out, but his battery-operated instrument still functioned. "Atmospheric pressure continues to drop. This could last days." Naira might not understand his words, but she seemed to grasp his concern. She pointed toward the direction of her crashed pod, then made a series of gestures that Liam interpreted as communication equipment. "Your people looking for you?" he asked. "Some way to contact them?" She nodded, a human gesture she'd already adopted. Progress. Throughout the day, they established a rudimentary system of communication. Naira proved remarkably intelligent, quickly connecting words to objects and building a basic vocabulary. By afternoon, she could name most household items, though complex concepts remained beyond their shared language. "Water," she said, touching the condensation on a window, then pointing outside. "Much water." "Rain," Liam corrected gently. "It's called rain." "Rain," she repeated, the word taking on an almost musical quality in her accent. As evening approached, Liam's generator sputtered and died, depleted of fuel. The temperature in the cabin began to drop precipitously. "We need to conserve heat," he explained, building a fire in the wood stove. "And water. The pump won't work without electricity." Naira watched him intently as he stoked the flames, seemingly mesmerized by the dancing light. She extended her purple hands toward the warmth, her skin capturing and reflecting the orange glow in a way that made it shimmer with iridescence. "Beautiful," she said unexpectedly, having learned the word when Liam had used it to describe the sunrise earlier. But she wasn't looking at the fire. She was looking at him. Liam felt heat creep into his cheeks that had nothing to do with the stove's warmth. Later, as darkness enveloped the cabin, Liam explained through gesture and simple words that they needed to be careful with their water supply. He'd collected rainwater, but without power, hot water was limited to what they could heat on the wood stove. "I should wash," Naira said, gesturing to herself. She had quickly grasped the human concept of cleanliness. Liam nodded. "I'll heat some water for you." But as he prepared to leave her alone in the bathroom with a basin of heated water, Naira looked confused. She pointed to the shower which she'd seen him use the previous day when the power had still worked. "No power," Liam explained. "No hot shower." Naira frowned, then brightened with what appeared to be a solution. "Small water," she said, making a conservation gesture he'd taught her. Then, to his astonishment, she pointed to him, then herself, then the shower. "Together." "Save water?" Liam's mouth went dry. That's not how we do things here," he stammered. "Humans usually showers alone." Naira tilted her head, clearly not understanding his discomfort. "Why?" she asked, adding another word to her growing vocabulary. How could he explain cultural taboos around nudity to someone from another world? Before he could formulate an answer, Naira stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the strange, sweet scent of her skin like nothing earthly, reminiscent of night-blooming flowers and ozone. Cold, she said simply, shivering slightly for emphasis. Together warm, together less water. Her logic was impeccable. Her understanding of his sudden awkwardness was non-existent. Liam swallowed hard. "Let me think about it," he said, knowing she wouldn't understand all the words, but hoping his tone conveyed the message. That night, as they huddled near the wood stove for warmth, Liam caught Naira studying his face with that intense curiosity that seemed to define her interaction with everything on Earth. She reached out, those 5 graceful purple fingers hovering near his stubbled cheek. "May I?" she asked, another phrase she'd learned through observation. Liam nodded, his heart accelerating as her cool fingers made contact with his skin. She traced the contours of his face as if memorizing them, her touch impossibly gentle. "Different," she said, then touched her own smooth purple face for comparison. "But same." In that moment, with the storm howling outside and this extraordinary being examining him with such innocent wonder, Liam realized he was crossing a threshold he could never return from. Science, objectivity, detachment, all his professional touchstones were failing him in the face of her luminous eyes and genuine curiosity. "Yes," he agreed softly. "Different but same." Part 3. Shared waters by. The third day, the temperature inside the cabin had dropped to uncomfortable levels despite the wood stove's constant burning. The storm outside had evolved into what Liam recognized as a once-in-a-century weather event, with sustained winds that threatened to uproot centuries-old trees and rainfall that had turned the mountain paths into treacherous mudslides. Naira's vocabulary continued to expand at an astonishing rate. She now constructed simple sentences and asked increasingly complex questions about Earth and human customs. Her persistent inquiry about shower sharing had been temporarily forgotten, until the morning Liam woke to find frost patterns on the inside of his windows. "Very cold," Naira observed, huddled beneath a pile of blankets. Her normally vibrant purple skin had taken on a duller, almost grayish tinge that alarmed him. "Is this dangerous for you?" Liam asked, gesturing to the cold room and then to her. She seemed to understand. "My world, colder, but change, slow." She made a rapid transition gesture with her hands. "Fast cold, not good." Liam checked his emergency supplies. The generator was beyond repair. A lightning strike too close to the cabin had fried its circuits. His stored water remained adequate, but he had limited means to heat it. The decision crystallized with pragmatic clarity. "We need to warm you up," he said. "A hot shower would help, and we still have water pressure from the gravity-fed system." Naira brightened immediately. "Together? Save water?" Liam took a deep breath. "Yes," he conceded. "Together." The bathroom was the smallest room in the cabin, easy to warm with a single candle. Liam explained as best he could about human modesty, but the concept seemed utterly foreign to Naira. When she began to remove his borrowed clothing with unself-conscious ease, Liam quickly turned away, his pulse thundering in his ears. "Why look away?" Naira asked, genuine confusion in her voice. "It's complicated," Liam managed, keeping his eyes fixed on the shower controls as he adjusted the temperature. "Humans are private about bodies." "Private?" she repeated, testing the unfamiliar word. "We don't look at each other. Not like this." His explanation felt hopelessly inadequate. "Your face changes color," Naira observed, stepping closer. She was right. He could feel the heat spreading across his cheeks. "Red. Like this flower." She pointed to a photograph of mountain laurel on the bathroom wall. "It's called blushing," Liam explained, forcing himself to maintain eye contact rather than let his gaze wander. "It happens when humans feel embarrassed, or sometimes when they feel attraction." Attraction? Another new word. When one person finds another person beautiful, in a way that makes their heart beat faster. Understanding dawned in those remarkable eyes. "Your heart beats faster now?" The steam from the shower was beginning to fill the small space, fogging the mirror and creating a dreamlike atmosphere. Liam couldn't deny the obvious truth. "Yes. Mine also," Naira said, placing her lavender hand over her chest, where Liam had earlier discovered her heart was located, slightly higher and more central than a human's. "Different," but same. The shower itself became an exercise in exquisite restraint. Liam tried to maintain a respectful distance within the confined space, but the necessity of sharing the warm water required proximity that tested his composure. Naira's purple skin glistened under the cascade, the water trailing in rivulets that highlighted the subtle differences in her physiology, the slightly more pronounced curve of her spine, the faint ridges that traced her shoulders, the way her lavender skin seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. "Your world," Naira began, forming her question carefully. "All humans same color?" Liam shook his head. "No, many colors. Not like yours, but different shades, and this causes problems?" Her perception was uncanny. Sometimes. It shouldn't, but it does. Naira considered this as she tilted her face into the spray. "Foolish," she finally declared. "Color is just light, different reflection." "You're right," Liam agreed, surprised by the simplicity and truth of her assessment. As they finished, Liam handed her a towel demonstrating its use. When her fingers brushed his, an unmistakable current passed between them. She felt it too. Her eyes widened slightly and the subtle luminescence beneath her skin intensified. "What is this?" she asked, placing her palm more deliberately against his. "I don't know," Liam answered honestly. "It's new to me too." Later, warmed and dressed in dry clothes, they sat before the wood stove sharing a simple meal of canned soup. Naira had begun to tell him about her world through a combination of their developing shared vocabulary and drawings. Her people, the Lissari, came from a planet orbiting a distant red dwarf star. They were explorers, scientists, not so different from humans in their curiosity, though technologically far advanced. "Why you live alone?" she asked suddenly. "No others?" The question caught Liam off guard. "I prefer it. Or I thought I did." "Lonely," Naira observed. It wasn't a question. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But people can be difficult, complicated." Naira nodded slowly. "On my world also. But different complications." She paused, searching for words. No shame for bodies, but shame for feelings, really? This fascinated Liam. "You don't express emotions?" "Express, yes. Admit importance, no." She tapped her chest. "We pretend mind only. Deny heart matters." The irony wasn't lost on Liam. He had isolated himself from human connection, while Naira came from a culture that intellectualized away emotional significance. Yet here they were, each breaking their cultural taboos, he by sharing physical space, she by acknowledging the emotional resonance between them. As the evening deepened and the storm showed no signs of abating, Naira moved to sit beside him on the small sofa. Without hesitation, she leaned against his shoulder, her unique scent enveloping him like an exotic atmosphere. "Is this permitted?" she asked softly. Liam's arm tentatively encircled her shoulders. "Yes," he whispered. "This is permitted." By the 7th day of their isolation, the rhythm of the storm had become a familiar backdrop to their evolving connection. Liam had grown accustomed to waking before dawn to find Naira already alert, often sketching star charts on paper he'd provided, mapping her journey across unimaginable distances. Her ability to absorb language continued to astonish him. She now spoke in complete, if sometimes unconventionally structured sentences. "Your son is very young," she remarked that morning, looking up from her drawings. "Volatile. Unpredictable." "Like its inhabitants," Liam replied with a smile. Naira considered this, her head tilting in that characteristic way that Liam had come to find endearing. "Not you," she decided. "You are constant, like gravity." The compliment warmed him more than it should have. Over the past week, their physical awareness of each other had developed into something neither could fully articulate. Their daily routine, sharing meals, conserving heat, the now established practice of showering together to save water, had created an intimacy that transcended their biological differences. "I need to check my equipment," Liam said, reluctantly breaking their comfortable silence. The barometric reading suggests the storm might be weakening. A shadow passed across Naira's luminous features. "You wish for the storm to end?" The question carried layers of meaning Liam wasn't prepared to navigate. "It would be safer," he said carefully. "We're running low on supplies." Naira nodded, but her usually bright eyes dimmed slightly. She returned to her star charts as Liam stepped outside onto his covered porch, where his weather instruments continued their silent documentation of the extraordinary meteorological event. The data confirmed his suspicion. The pressure was gradually rising. The wind velocities decreasing. Within days, perhaps even hours, the mountain paths would be navigable again. The realization filled him with an unexpected melancholy. When he returned inside, Nira was standing by the window, her purple palm pressed against the glass as if reaching for something beyond. "My people will search," she said without turning. "When storm clears, they will find transmitter signal." "You'll be able to go home," Liam said, the words feeling hollow in his chest. Now she turned, those remarkable eyes studying his expression with newfound understanding. "Your heart rate increases," she observed. "Your breathing pattern changes. These are signs of distress?" Liam couldn't deny it. "Yes, because I will leave?" "Yes." The simplicity of their exchange belied its profound significance. In just 1 week, this extraordinary being from beyond the stars had become essential to him in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. The thought of returning to his solitary existence felt suddenly unbearable. Nira crossed the room with fluid grace, stopping directly before him. "On my world, we have concept Sivarith. No direct translation. When two life paths intersect and create new pattern, new possibility, like destiny," Liam suggested. "No, not fixed. Not determined." Her fingers traced the air between them, illustrating invisible connections. Potential. Choice. With deliberate slowness, she placed her lavender hand over his heart. "Human emotions, so clear in physical response. We Lyseri hide better, but feel same." Liam covered her hand with his own. "What do you feel, Nira?" "Many things without earth words," she said softly. "But one with word, fear. This surprised him. "Of what?" "Of choice coming. Stay or go, of Sivarith broken." Before he could respond, a sound penetrated the cabin, a distinctive hum unlike anything Earth made. Nira's head snapped up, her eyes widening. "Search drone," she explained, tension evident in her voice. Scanning for transmitter. Liam moved to the window. Above the trees, barely visible through the thinning rain, hovered a silvery disk that reflected light in patterns too regular to be natural. "They found you already?" "Not yet," Nira said, joining him at the window. "Preliminary scan only. Signal from crash pod still weak." She turned to him with unexpected urgency. "I can delay. Send false coordinates. Buy time." "Time for what?" Liam asked, though something in him already knew the answer. "To decide. To understand what this is." She gestured between them. 1 planetary rotation. 1 Earth day. The drone soon departed, leaving them in a silence heavy with unspoken possibilities. That evening they sat closer than usual before the fire, the imminent separation lending poignancy to every shared moment. "Tell me about your world," Liam requested. "Not the science, the life. Your life." Nira described a civilization of breathtaking advancement, cities that floated above crystalline oceans, transportation that bent the fabric of space, lifespans measured in centuries rather than decades. Yet beneath the technological marvels lay familiar struggles, purpose, connection, belonging. "I am scientist. Explorer," she explained. "But also outsider. I ask wrong questions." "What questions?" "Why we suppress emotion. Why we deny connection important to existence." She looked into the flames. "Why we travel stars but fear to travel here." She touched her chest. Liam understood perfectly. "That's why I came to the mountains. Everyone connected digitally, but no one connecting truly. Different, but same," they said in unison, then laughed, a shared moment of perfect comprehension. As night deepened around the cabin, their conversation gave way to a comfortable silence. Without words, Nira moved closer, resting her head against Liam's shoulder. Her unique scent, like distant stars and exotic blooms, enveloped him. When she lifted her face to his, the question in her eyes required no translation. Their first kiss was tentative, an exploration of unfamiliar territory. Her lips were cooler than a human's, with a slight sweetness that reminded Liam of mountain honey. When they parted, the luminescence beneath her lavender skin had intensified, casting a soft glow between them. "Your people have ritual for this?" she whispered. "Many," Liam answered, his voice rough with emotion. "All different, but with the same meaning." "Show me," Nira requested, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Show me your human rituals of connection." That night, they discovered that despite the vast distances between their worlds, Some languages were truly universal. Dawn broke clear and bright, the storm finally exhausted after 9 days of fury. Sunlight streamed through the windows of Liam's cabin for the first time since Naira's arrival, illuminating dust motes that danced in the golden beams. Liam woke to find Naira already outside on the porch, her purple skin radiant in the morning light, her face tilted toward the sky with an expression of complex emotion. "They will come today," she said simply as he joined her. "Signal strong now." Liam nodded, his chest tight with the inevitability of their parting. Last night had transformed something between them. Boundaries crossed, vulnerabilities shared, a connection forged that defied the astronomical improbability of their meeting. "What happens when they find you?" he asked, leaning against the railing beside her. "Standard protocol: retrieve explorer, destroy evidence, erase memories." Her voice carried no inflection, but her eyes, when she finally turned to him, held profound sadness. "Erase memories?" "Whose memories?" "Any Earth beings who made contact. Clean separation maintained between worlds." She touched his face gently. "Your memories of me would become dream only, indistinct, unreal." The thought struck Liam like a physical blow. "They can do that? Take my memories without consent?" "Standard protocol," she repeated, though with evident disapproval. "For protection, yours and ours." "I don't want protection," Liam said firmly. "I want to remember you." Nira's expression softened. "I also wish this, but my people, cautious, many worlds, many contacts, some ended badly." They spent the morning in preparation, Naira gathering the few possessions she'd accumulated, Liam restoring his cabin to its pre-visitor state. Neither spoke of the previous night, though the memory of their intimate connection lingered in every shared glance, every accidental touch. As midday approached, Naira suddenly tensed. "They come," she said, her eyes fixed on the eastern sky. 3 units until arrival." Liam's meteorological knowledge translated her alien time reference, approximately 15 Earth minutes. Panic rose in his chest. "There has to be another way," he insisted. "A compromise." Naira turned to him, her purple features arranged in what he now recognized as her problem-solving expression. "Perhaps, if we act quickly." She retrieved the pad where she'd been drawing star charts and began sketching rapidly, explaining as she worked. The Lissari operated under strict non-interference directives, but there were exceptions, particularly for worlds on the cusp of interstellar capability. "Earth is close," she explained. "Your quantum technology, primitive but advancing. Only few decades from breakthrough, so?" Liam pressed, aware of each passing minute. "Approved exception, scientific liaison. Cultural preparation." Her purple fingers flew across the paper. "If human demonstrates exceptional comprehension, selective awareness permitted." "You mean some humans are allowed to know about you? To remember?" "Very few. Very specific criteria." She looked up, those remarkable eyes intense with focus. "Must demonstrate knowledge value. Must sign formal non-disclosure. Must accept monitoring." "I'll do it," Liam said without hesitation. "Whatever it takes." Nira's expression remained grave. "One more requirement." "Most difficult," she paused. "Must commit to isolated living. No widespread human contact." The requirement struck Liam as ironic rather than burdensome. "Naira, look around you. Isolation is my specialty." For the first time that day she smiled, that luminous expression that made her entire being glow from within. "Yes." This I considered. A humming vibration filled the air, and Liam glanced out the window to see 3 silver discs descending into the clearing near his cabin. Unlike the search drone, these were large enough to transport passengers. "Time had run out. What do we do?" he asked, fighting the urge to bar the door to hide her away somehow. "Truth," Naira said simply. "We tell truth. To them. To ourselves." She took his hands in hers, the contrast of purple against his tan skin somehow perfect in its complementarity. "Liam Kovac, would you accept role as Earth's first official scientific liaison to the Lissari? With all restrictions this entails?" The question carried weight far beyond its words. A commitment to secrecy, to continued isolation from his own kind, to a life forever altered by knowledge few humans possessed. Yet in Naira's amethyst eyes he saw possibility that outweighed every sacrifice. "Yes," he answered without hesitation. And would you, Naira of the Lissari, accept assignment as permanent cultural attaché to this remote Earth outpost? With all the adjustments that might require? Her luminescence brightened visibly. I would. The arrival of the Lissari delegation transformed Liam's simple cabin into a scene from science fiction. Three beings similar to Nira in their purple-hued appearance but dressed in formal attire that seemed to shift and flow, like liquid crystal entered with cautious dignity. Their initial shock at finding Naira and Liam standing side by side, hands joined, gave way to intense discussion in their melodic language. Nira spoke rapidly, occasionally gesturing to Liam or to his meteorological equipment. He recognized scientific terms she'd learned from him: barometric pressure, mesocyclone, atmospheric anomaly, woven into her explanation. The eldest appearing Lissari responded with what sounded like skeptical questions, which Naira answered with increasing confidence. Finally, she turned to Liam. They require demonstration. Your knowledge, your discretion, your commitment,